What's up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the Wise Take MLB DFS podcast. I am your host, CK013. You can find me on Twitter at CK013, and I am joined once again by the triple OG of the Wise Take Nation, Mr. Patio Joe. You can find him on Twitter at Patio Joe Ref. Joey, my man, how was your All-Star break, bro?
All-Star break was good, let's see. Tuesday, Wednesday, just kind of relaxed, didn't do much of anything. And then Friday we had the slate. They had that no-hitter on Friday, which was, if you played baseball at any level of higher than high school and understand it, to realize what went down on Friday night with all the Angels players wearing number 45, honoring Tyler Skaggs' first game back at home. I mean, I talked about it on the podcast with Paulie, how I like the Angels strictly because it's their first game back, and I knew that the offense, that they were going to be emotional, but I had no idea that they were going to go out there and do a combined no-hitter. And it was very emotional even for me. I was sitting there. It was awesome to see. And the Angels go out there and go 7 runs in the first inning and end up with 13 total. And Skaggs' birthday is July 13th, so 7/13. So there was just so many like little correlations and things like that with baseball. Just, man, there's baseball gods. I truly believe in.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. It was definitely that was like I was away. Obviously, I was in Mexico for the last week, so I took a real vacation. I really unplugged. But that was one of those things where, like, when something like that happens, like, it finds you. Like, you just see one headline. Like, 'cause I tried to stay away from Twitter and stay away from my phone in general while I was away. But, like, every now and again, you're sitting there waiting around. You have your phone in your hand, and you're just checking, did I miss any messages? What's going on here? Check some emails. And you take a look at Twitter, and, like, you see one headline, you click it, and the story was just, like an incredible story. And just in general, man, like the way things went down, and like you said, similar to the Jose Fernandez situation, how emotional that was, and like how inspiring and whatever you want to say. This one was was that and then some, man, and it was just and on top of that, the Angels managed just to keep that hot streak going. They just kept, like, even after, they just kept destroying offensively. So yeah, they're playing some inspired ball. Terrible tragedy, obviously, but it's nice whenever you can. I mean, all you can really do when a tragedy happens anywhere is try your best to find any sort of positive, not from the situation, but from whatever you can do to move on. Anything you're doing to move on. If you can find something positive, those are the things you kind of lean on. And right now, that's kind of what this Angels team is doing. Is they're trying to take that tragedy and just trying to make the best out of what happened, and that's really all you can do when something like that happens. So, but it is something, man. Like, baseball may not be the most exciting sport to watch in comparison to like football and basketball and some of the other more watched sports or popular sports, whatever. But it's definitely like just, it's got its own little like drama. It's got its own thing going on. It does, man. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty awesome sport at the end of the day, whether you play it or not. Anyway, Joe, it's my first. I was writing. I wrote Friday, wrote Saturday, so I've been paying attention, but I wasn't able to actually play because I was in Mexico. So this will be my first night actually getting a chance to play, and it is quite a slate. I thought we were off the hook. I thought Coors was off the slate because I saw that their game was at 2:00. I say to Joe, "Oh yeah, great. So Coors is off the slate," and Joe says, "Nah." He says, "Nah, brah. There is a doubleheader." So we do have Coors on this slate as well. So a lot to talk about, Joe. Let's start it off how we usually do with Cash Game SP1s. Or Cash Games in general. Just who are your two Cash Game guys?
Right. Cash Game SP1, Cash Game in general. Tomorrow, it's Lucas Giolito, especially on FanDuel. Now, DK, he's 11-2, I believe, but on FanDuel, he's 9-1, and he's the 4th highest pitcher on the slate. He's facing the Royals. This is the 4th time he will have faced the Royals. And the other 3 times, he is averaging 56 FanDuel points. Okay, so I can't get off of that. Everybody else, you got Kershaw, which is, a pitch to contact Kershaw against the Phillies in Philly. I don't like that. Castillo is good. He's a good GPP option, but the wind's blowing out, it looks like, in Chicago. And I like him as a GPP option. I'm just not going to do it in cash. And Snell against the Yankees? No, sorry, I ain't taking that bra either. It's Giolito, 9,100. Lock it up, especially on FanDuel.
Yeah, man, I totally dig that. I think looking at the slate initially, he's like the one that stands out the most. I mean, you got Castillo's got wind in Wrigley, 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing out. Plus, it's the Cubs, just never fun to attack them in cash games. And then Blake Snell's ERA in Yankee Stadium, and like when he plays the Yankees, his ERA is ridiculously high in general, but higher in Yankee Stadium. He just does not seem to pitch well there. So whether you think he's a tournament option or not, you definitely don't want to go there in cash, and that leaves you with Giolito. And why not, man? Dude's been good. Like the walks have been up a little bit. He's seeing a Royals team that he's dominated though, and like I don't think the walks have been all that bad. I think that like when he plays a tough team, his pitch count is going to naturally be higher because they're more likely to be patient. They're more likely to foul off some of those extra tough calls. So when you have a more free-swinging team like the Tigers or the Royals or whatever the case may be, you want to, and it just seems like he's going to do well. And so I'm with you, Joe. In tournaments and in cash games, it's hard for me to not like Giolito a ton.
Yeah. One other thing on Giolito, his last 5 starts, Cubs, Twins, Red Sox, Cubs, Yankees.
Yeah.
Like that's 5 pretty tough offenses, or 4 teams, 5 tough offenses. You know what I mean? Yeah. So he's finally facing Kansas City, like a bad offense again. So it's not like he hasn't been pitching as well as he did, but his last great start was against Kansas City. So
go figure.
So to me,
we'll double check on the tomorrow for the subs, but I don't think there's going to be much going to take us off of him. What about SP2, Joe?
SP2, there's 2 guys I think are interesting. First guy is Adam Plutko, especially at DK. He's he's 7,800, so it's a little bit high, but he's facing a Detroit team who strikes out the second most against right-handed. In the last 30 days, they're striking out the second most. It's pretty much just a price, just a matchup play. But the price play, I think that a lot of people are going to go to because we have Coors on the slate. I'm sorry. I looked at it and I was like, man, this is mispriced. Daniel Norris is 4,200 on DK. The last time he faced the Indians at Cleveland, June 23rd, 7 innings, 8 strikeouts. He gave up 6 earned runs, but he had 15 DraftKings points. I mean, at 4,200, if you told me you can give me 15 DK points at 4,200 on a Coors slate in cash, I'm taking that. With Giolito, what do you think? I mean, you play DK way more than I do. What do you think?
I understand it. In cash games, even with Coors on the slate, I'm a little more less likely to go all the way down in cash. I kind of like to pay up a little more. I think that Musgrove is kind of in the conversation. Before the break, he was pitching extremely well. He's only 5,800. Jake Junis, I think, is a guy you can look at. Plutko, I do think will be trendy because it's the Tigers. Even though the Tigers have been hot, coming out of the break, they've been coming. And I don't think Plutko is a good pitcher by any stretch. But the issue is when you're looking at the other SP2s, I see your point because I don't really see anybody else that I like. In theory, it sounds great. Pay up. I think Mikolas could be a guy people look towards, but even that, he's 8K against the Pirates, who going into the All-Star break were one of the hotter offenses in the game. So I see your point. If you're frustrated and you don't want to pick between one of these guys, I think I would be more likely to give Musgrove a shot, even though the Cardinals I do think are on the verge of waking up. I'd be more likely to give him a shot because his form has looked really good. But I get it. Just kind of punt the SP2 position, try to make it up with your bats. You got Giolito, so that should be your 30 DraftKings point right there. I don't hate the idea. And Cleveland, not for nothing, but Cleveland has just been bad this year. Overall, come on, comparing them to last year before, that they're just not good right now. They're not very good this year. So, I don't hate the idea. I think I would lean towards maybe a Musgrove. I don't like the idea of the unless you're doing a double pay up like a Paxton or something like that. If you can get up there, sure. But I agree with you, Joe. If you're playing cores, it's going to be pretty hard to do him as an SP2. So I think I'm with you. It's either you roll with one of these dudes you don't feel comfortable with, or you just punt it completely and go with Norris at 4,200. I get it. The GPP conversation. Talk to me about Paxton. Any interest in him against the Yankees? Paulie just texted me pointing out that he just saw them recently, the Rays, and he struck out like a bunch of them, I guess, at his last outing against them. This time, I want to say that was in Tampa. What was it?
Last start, July 7th, 6 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts. It depends on the lineup that Tampa rolls out. I'm looking at the lineup that they roll out. If it's that same lineup, I don't mind it. Paxton has been a little up and down this year, so he's been very unreliable. Was mixing the GBP conversation. The other guy I talked about him earlier is Castillo. The Cubs have been striking out seventh most in the major leagues last 30 days, so it's not like there's not some strikeout potential. Castillo's been one of the best pitchers in the game. I mean, if the weather is bad and it's blowing out, I probably just wouldn't maybe go there. He'd make him really, really volatile, but Castillo has some K upside. He's a strikeout pitcher, and he's facing a team that's been striking out a lot more. So I kind of like him too. But Paxton against the Rays last time, I'm with it. I don't mind it. And then I don't mind also Musgrove on FanDuel at 8,300. If you wanted to go a little mid-tier, that's not bad too. We talked about it. He's been good. But that's about it.
Yeah, no, I hear you. It's still like even amongst all these guys, like looking at Pax and the Rays have been pretty hot, and they're coming out of the break. I know it's just been a couple games, but they lit up the scoreboard in Baltimore. Granted, that was Baltimore, but still, this is Yankee Stadium. I like Paxton for tournaments, but I like Giolito so much that I would have to come off of Giolito to play Paxton, I think, unless I could work something out with a cheap offense tomorrow, but that makes it tough for me to do. So I'm with you. I still like Giolito as the SP1. And the SP2s, Joe, I think, like, now it's, like, pretty much the same guys we talked about, right? It's, like, your Norrises, your Musgroves, maybe, Mikolas and Plutkos. It's, like, it's ugly, man. It's not pretty. Any interest in Rick Porcello at 6,300 at least on draft? On FanDuel, you don't need him. Like on FanDuel, I think FanDuel, the conversation was over at Giolito, right? You just do that and you just kind of build around it. But on DraftKings, you do have to play second pitcher. Toronto, going into the All-Star break, they're playing pretty well.
He's one of the high favorites on the board, but he's still very volatile. I would just go to Musgrove if you're going to go down there. He's right around the same price. He's $500 less. I think
I don't disagree with that. I think it's very. I don't like rostering Porcello. I'll acknowledge it's a cheap price, but this is also a very high run total game, and the Blue Jays have a lot of pretty good lefties. So I'm with you. I think I'd probably just go to Musgrove as well. Let's talk about some bats now, Joe. Which one of these pitchers stands out the most in terms of maybe picking on? Well, I guess we should talk about cores, right? We should address cores because that's been like the new norm this year. Go ahead.
Well, so we really only have like Derek Rodriguez as the starter announced for the Giants. So obviously it's going to be all dependent on the lineup that they roll out tomorrow, and we're not going to get that until that first game's over with. So the first game is going to be dependent on, how bad the bullpen goes and such like that. If the bullpen gets, used a lot in that first game, that second game, if you really want to pick on one of those pitchers, that's when you stack one of those teams. So Coors is definitely in play tomorrow for sure. I would probably favor the Rocky side, but the Giants have been hot. They've been really, really hot. So I think both teams have to worth a look tomorrow for sure.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I think, going forward, unless there are some really good pitchers or some, underlying circumstances, we kind of you almost have to have a Coors team. Like if you're building multiples, you kind of have to have at least one, and especially if we're getting a bullpen game from the Rockies, if we do, who have a terrible bullpen. And Derek Rodriguez, I'm just not a fan of. I don't really think any of us are. I think we're all kind of on the he's not very good train, and I think we're accurate with that assessment. So. I think Coors is definitely worth in cash. You can go ahead and just build your team off here. And in tournaments, if I have 3 teams, which I probably will have at least 3, like I'm gonna have at least one core stack. I have to, because every time I do it, it works. And then when I don't do it, I end up saying to myself, next time I there's no well, I'll say like I have to have a course team, and I won't do it, and then it'll go off. I'll be sitting here like, how did I not end up with a course team? So just going forward, if it is, unless there's a spot on the slate that I really really love, I'm probably gonna have at least one course team. What about some of the other offenses, Joe?
Well, you got, I think, a couple of the options that stand out. You got the Red Sox facing Trent Thornton for like the third time in like a month. Like 2 times ago, he pitched really well, and then last time he got his tits lit. So you kind of like, what you don't really know what you're going to get. But I think you could stack the Red Sox for sure. They're going to be really popular. The other team I think that's going to be really, really popular is at least the lefties of the Dodgers facing Eflin, who is a 2.28 home run per 9 against lefties this year. So he's basically fastball slider that he throws mostly. And, Jock, Seager, Bellinger, Muncy, they're going to be just, eating that up, I think, all day. And then we know the Philly bullpen isn't very good behind it. So if you want to mix in a righty like Turner or Pollock, who has 2 home runs already back in 3 games this weekend, so he's back from the DL, I'm sure he's not that expensive either on either site right now. He's only 3-3 on FanDuel. So I like the Dodgers and the Red Sox that stand out too. Other teams, right now it's pretty much that. It's the Dodgers. Oh, and the White Sox. I like the White Sox too. Junis has been giving up about 2 home runs a game the last 30 days. He's has a little reverse split. So like guys like Abreu, McCann, Eloy Jimenez, I like a little bit better than the lefties. But we all know also the Kansas City bullpen is susceptible. And then we need to track the weather in Chicago. If the wind gets picked up any more than it is right now, we might want to have a good stack of either of these teams, no matter who's pitching, because we know that if the wind's blowing out, it could be just like Coors, and you can almost have just be contrarian and go with them instead of Coors and maybe compete with it.
From a tournament perspective, I think the Red Sox and Dodgers are totally viable. That's obvious, of course, Joe. Those are great spots. I mean, Philly's bullpen's awful, especially to lefties. So if they can get through to Eflin and they get that bullpen, the Dodgers have plenty of lefties, like you said, with Seager back. Lineup is looking pretty healthy again, and on DraftKings, outside of Bellinger, they're all relatively cheap. And then the Red Sox against Thornton, seen them a ton of times. This time they're at home in Boston, where they play well, pretty good hitting weather. They've been playing well lately. They totally make sense. I also kind of like the idea, though, on a contrarian level, of attacking one of Castillo or Blake Snell. Not necessarily with the Yankees, it doesn't have to be a full stack, but I kind of like the idea of the Yankees. If we've already made the commitment to Lucas Giolito, Blake Snell becomes worthless to us, right? Because we're hoping Giolito is going to outscore Snell. So I kind of like the idea of maybe just getting a really low-owned, high-upside Yankees stack. Guys like Gary Sanchez, Aaron Judge, DJ LeMahieu, whose prices also dropped on DraftKings, even Gleyber Torres. I think like the ownership on them will be really, really low. They haven't been as good this year against lefties as we'd like. I think that's going to change slowly as we kind of go through the scope. But you look at this lineup and you look at the pricing, they're cheap, and it's just loaded with power. You got E5, Gleyber Torres, Hicks, Judge, LeMahieu, Sanchez. Like it's pretty easy to do that, and I like the idea of grabbing them against one of those. And the reason I say the Yankees or the Cubs is because the Cubs is the same situation. They got winds blowing out. Again, we have to track it and see if tomorrow the winds stay that way. But as of right now, we're projected for 12-mile-an-hour winds blowing at the center at Wrigley, which we know is huge. It's 86 degrees, 54% humidity, and nobody's going to play against Castillo. Like, why would they? They'll go to Coors. If not, then they'll look at the Dodgers. Then they'll look at the Red Sox. But, like, nobody wants to pick on good pitchers. And ultimately, neither do I usually, but I kind of like the idea of grabbing one of these higher upside offenses who are pretty cheap in good hitting situations and are going to be like very, very low owned. Like secondary to those 2 stacks you mentioned. But the first 2 you mentioned, the Dodgers and the Red Sox, especially the Dodgers, I really, really like the Dodgers. I mean, Philly's bullpen terrible against lefties. They're loaded with lefties. This park is for them, it's a huge boost. There's a lot of offenses to like for sure, man.
Here. Let me ask you about a couple other teams that I was thinking about. Like we brought up Norris because he's so cheap, but yet the Indians are implied for 5.8 runs. I mean, that's 6 runs.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we got to take a look at them too. I think they might come. They might go under the radar strictly because people will see Norris's price, see what they did last time. Maybe they want to play him. And they went, well, I'm going to not play the Indians.
Oh yeah. I could see that happening. Yeah.
At least on DK, right. FanDuel, they're going to be more
Agreed.
popular. And then I think the one game that almost is going to fly almost completely under the radar, we haven't even brought up, is Atlanta and Milwaukee. You know what I mean? We have both teams are implied for over 5 runs.
I was just looking at the Brewers side of that, and the Braves side is just as juicy against Hauser, who's been awful. But Max Fried has struggled to get strikeouts. You look at this line; there's a lot of lefty matches, man. Ryan Braun, Grandal, Kane, Aguiar, like Herrera, and then you got the lefties themselves, who are the best hitters on the team right now. In Yelich and Moustakas, you make a great point. I mean, I think the Brewers, this game in general, it's got, I think, a 9.5, 10-run total right now. So, and you're right, it's completely under the radar. Good hitting park. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to like tomorrow, bats wise. So we're gonna want to dig in. There's a lot to like. That's gonna do it, I think, for the slate breakdown, Joe. At this point, I'm gonna remind everybody, if you haven't checked us out at wisestake.com, make sure you get over there. We are still doing the free trial. If you haven't checked it out already. If you've never had an account with WiseTake, this is an opportunity for you to try us out for 7 days. All you have to do is go to wisestake.com, sign up for the All Sports monthly package. You will automatically get the 7-day trial. You will not be charged until the end of those 7 days. You have until the 7th day to cancel if you are not satisfied with the content you received during your 7-day period. So you just go there, you get 7 days, cancel within the 7 days. You will never be charged, and you can kind of try us out and rock out with us, man. We got the live stream. We have a 2-hour live stream. We do the only day we don't do it is Sunday. So Monday through Saturday we do a live stream 2 hours before lock. After our guys have done their research, we have GPP articles, cash game articles, cheat sheets, all that good stuff to help you. And of course the Slack chat. You will get access to the Slack chat with that. And we definitely recommend you guys try it out. Chop up these slates with us. Again, I've been on vacation, so I haven't been as active. I've written the articles, haven't been as active on the shows and whatnot, but that will certainly change because I am back in Mikasa, ready to grind it out, do it dirty, Selm style.
Yeah.
With that said, check us out at westside.com. Joe, Cash Game Core. So Lucas Giolito, do you want to just plop Norris for the fun of it? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go with who's the stud?
The stud tomorrow is going to be I'm going to go with JD Martinez.
Okay, I can dig it. I thought you were going to say Blackman. I was like, oh, interesting. But I mean, I can't really argue against JD.
Not going. I want to kind of go a little bit off of the, from Coors, but obviously Blackman's going to be a great cash game play. But you got to make sure that he's going to be in the lineup in a doubleheader. I'm not sure. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha. I'm cool with JD.
And I would have gone with Bellinger, and the only reason why I'm not going with Bellinger is because the value play, at least on FanDuel, leading off at 2,600, lock him in, Jock Peterson.
Yeah, Jockstrap with it. He's only 42 over here. I think on DraftKings, man, some of the pricing on these guys, like Anthony Rizzo's only 4K. Am I on DraftKings? I am on DraftKings. Wow. I guess DraftKings. I haven't, like I said.
What about this guy?
Hit the reset
button. I mean, what about this guy Guillermo Heredia? Who's supposed to be leading off for the Rays at 2.5 on DraftKings.
I mean, I could do it just based off his price. Even if he goes 0 for, even if he gives you an 0 for, like you save so much money on a hitter that you should have been able to make that up somewhere. So I'm actually cool with that just because of his price. I could roll with that.
Yeah, there's really. I'm trying to think. I mean, that's just so cheap. You don't see a guy that cheap.
No, I agree.
It
does look like, looking at some of these prices, like outside of Coors, if people elect to not go to Coors, then it's going to be pretty easy to actually do a double pay up in cash. Because like a lot of these other high-powered offenses are relatively cheap. But anyway, we'll dig in more of that tomorrow. I'm cool with Heredia for now with the savings. That'll be a way you can help get you cores and better pitching. Top 3 pitchers overall.
Giolito, Plutko, and Castillo.
I'm gonna go with Giolito. I will go with James Paxton, and I'll go with Musgrove. Top 3 stacks.
Top 3 stacks. I'm gonna go with number 1 the Dodgers, number 2 the Red Sox, and number 3 the White Sox.
Okay, I will go with the Cubs. I will go with the Dodgers, and let's go with what was that other team? The Yankees. That's what it was. Dong Watch. Who's going deep?
Dong Watch. I'm going to go with Cody Bellinger.
All right, I could dig it. I'll go at Max Muncy.
I'm going to stay in that game and go to the other side and say Scott Kingery is going to hit one off of Kershaw.
Okay, I could dig it. Okay, he's been hitting lefties well. I'll go with Gary the Goat.
And then I'm going to finish off with Jose Abreu.
And I'll go with Anthony Rizzo. And that is going to do it. What
You-
you got?
You know, we didn't even mention the Astros Angels game.
There's just too much. Like, we talked about so much, we hadn't reached it, and that's part of that West Coast bias, East Coast bias thing. Like, we were kind of going in order of like the timings of the games, and then when we got there, it was like, well, we already talked enough. I mean, we really add another offense to the thing. But I think, like, like Houston too. Like, they've been playing well, but the Angels are the team that I would be worried about not having, just because of how they're playing right now. Right.
And they're going to have, it's supposedly they're going to be going with an opener with Josh James, and then they're going to be coming in with Framber Valdez.
Right.
So he's been getting hit a
Oh,
little bit lately.
He's been
so,
doo-doo butter. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, and we know Canning can get hit by lefties. So, Yordan Alvarez, which was one of my dong calls, either on the Y stream on Friday or it was on the podcast, one of the two, and he double donged. So, I had him. So I think it's so funny. There's so many teams that I think that are just going to be very, very under the radar tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to worry about ownership unless you go to court.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about that. I think you're totally right. And that is going to do it for the Wise Take DFS podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please click that like button, that thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Facebook, give us a like and a share. To support the Wise Tech Nation, if you're watching on Twitch or Twitter, give us a follow, give us a retweet, and if you're listening to us on Podbean or iTunes, give us some 5-star reviews. Joey, my man, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
No, man, just happy to have you back and getting ready to swing of things. Second half starts, really Monday. Here we go.
Man. I'm ready. I'm rejuvenated and I'm ready. I'm ready to crush the second half of MLB, just like how we crushed the first half, because that's what we do. So come rock with us. Hopefully we see y'all over at the site. For Patio Joe, for myself, the entire Wise Tech Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.